Hi guys, so today's home workout altogether it's a 20-minute piece, it's 5 rounds and we go every 4 minutes. So you have a 4-minute window to complete your movements, you rest for the remainder of that time and then we keep rolling through it. So 3 movements that we need to tick off today. So we've got 10 and 10. Shoulder press, a dumbbell, kettlebell, whatever you can get your hands on. I've only got a kettlebell, so how it would work, I'm going to do 10 on one side. Once I've done 10 on one side, I'll switch and do 10 on the other side. Okay, so that's the first movement. Movement number 2, we have 10 and 10 Bulgarian split squats. So that's a single leg squat, ideally with one foot raised on an object. So I'm going to use my sofa. I've twisted it ever so slightly, so I'll take you through that. And again, you can use some weight or you can just go with body weight if it feels challenging. Ideally what we're looking for is the hip to try and line up with the knee, okay, in terms of depth. Once we've done that, we then have 20 dead bugs to get through. So a little bit of midline work just to finish off that working set. Okay, so those are our 3 movements, relatively straightforward, and as like always, the heavier we go, the harder it becomes. All right. So just in terms of a warm up, we need to get the shoulders, the glutes, the hips all working nicely. So all we're going to do from a standing position, we're going to do 5 inchworms. So feet underneath shoulders. From here, we're going to walk our hands down to the floor, walk ourselves all the way out. From here, you can, if you want, drop your hips to the ground. And then from there, we're going to walk ourselves all the way back up. So that's 1. We're going to do 4 more. Okay, so I've done 3, so I've got 2 more left to do. Hopefully you've done your 5. So from there we're going to come into some reverse lunges. So we're literally just going to step back, stand up, switch legs, step back, stand up. So that's 2. We're going to get ourselves all the way up to 20. And that is 20 for me. From there, we're just going to try and get this midline working. Okay, so we're going to do 10 hollow rocks. So that hollow rock, I'm going to be lying on the ground. Notice from here, my shoulders are on the floor. If I bring my arms into this position and bring my shoulders off the floor, you'll notice that my back is the only section that's on the floor. From here, I want to try and keep all of this and all of this moving as one. So notice the arms and the legs don't separate, and we are pivoting on the small of our back. Okay, so 10 of these. Good. From there, we're going to come straight back to the top. So we're going to do 5 inchworms. We've got our lunges and then our hollow rocks. And last one. Good. So we're into our reverse lunges, so 20 all together. So this workout, good mix. We're getting some upper body work with our shoulders. We're getting some lower body work with our split squat. And then we're getting some midline. So the good news is the shoulders get to rest when the legs are working. The legs get to rest when the shoulders are working. Okay, so we'll do our last set of our hollow rocks. Cool. Have a little rest there. So, as I said, we have 3 movements to get through. So it starts with our shoulder press, so 10 and 10, split squats, and then our dead bugs. So, seeing as we're already on the floor, we'll go through that dead bug position. So it's very similar, but the movement just differs slightly. So if I show you what it looks like, that would be 1, that would be 2, and that would be 3. Okay, so what you may have noticed is I'm using opposite arm to opposite leg. So if I'm using right arm, I'm using left leg, and left arm, right leg. Okay, so what we want is both of those ultimately trying to move at the same time, and we're extending them out, which means that our midline has to work a little bit harder. Okay, so in terms of that positioning, excuse me, notice that I start lying on my back. Okay, from here my knees are above my hips and my ankles are roughly in line with my knees. Okay, so what I'm not doing is this or this. Okay, so from here we then bring our hands in the air. So what you'll notice is I've got my thumbs pointing above my head. So not in this position, I'm here. Okay, and then I've got my back pushed into the floor and I'm trying to keep my shoulders away. And it's nice and controlled. So if I go left arm, right leg, what you'll notice is the 2 move together, and I try and take that leg straight, and I take my arm straight, and this arm and this leg don't move, and I can really feel my midline working. From here we then bring that back in, and we could then go into the other side. Okay, notice what I'm not doing is this, is just dropping that arm and dropping that foot. So we're very much thinking of lengthening the leg and lengthening the arm. Okay, so I just did 2 then, nice and controlled, and I could definitely feel that working. So you should be able to feel that working. Another thing to think about is sending your leg away from you. Okay, so hopefully you can see, but I'm trying to send that leg as long as I can, rather than just trying to drop it to the floor. Okay, if it gets really difficult and you're struggling with your arms, then obviously you can just reduce that range a little bit. I'd rather you feel this working rather than just doing this. And notice in this position my shoulders come to the floor, and in essence I'm just lying down. Okay, so that is our dead bug. 1 repetition would be 1 arm, 1 leg. Okay, so you'd alternate until you got yourself up to your 20. So hopefully that makes sense. So the next one we've got is that split squat. Okay, so that single leg squat. So if I show you what it looks like just without some weight. So a couple of reps for you. That would be 1. And that would be 2. Okay, so it's quite hard for me to show you this way, so I'll do it without the sofa. Essentially I've got one leg forward, one leg back. What you'll notice is there's a gap between my feet here. So if we imagine a tightrope where we're like this, notice the first thing that happened then was my hips started to wobble. Okay, so we want to try and reduce that as much as we can. So giving ourselves a slightly wider base will make life a little bit easier. So I tend to use the sofa when I'm at home, and in order to set it up I find the best way is to take 3 steps. So if I start with my calves, my ankles, whatever you've got available to put against something, and I literally take 3 steps. So 1 step, 2 step, notice it's heel to toe, and then finally my 3rd step. Okay, so that's where my left foot, or my working leg, is going to be. I then take my back foot into position. So my back foot, just to give you some idea, I'm resting the top of my foot just very gently on that sofa. Some people like to put their toes on it. If I put my toes on this sofa, it's going to slide away from it. So what you'll notice here, my knee is above my ankle. Okay, so where I'm not is in this position, and at the same time where I'm not is in this position. So we want to try and keep that nicely stacked. From here, keeping the chest nice and tall, we basically drop our hips into the gap below. And notice in this position, I can get my hip in line with my knee, and that knee is nicely above my ankle. And then from here, we drive off that front leg, and we should feel that working down this section of our leg. Okay, what you may find, if you've got a little bit of tightness in the hip flexor, that back leg might get a nice stretch. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but you just have to grit and bear your teeth. So how we make that a little trickier, we can add a weight. So I'm going to use this kettlebell here. So I start by picking it up. I would do the same thing, 1, 2, 3. So notice I'm using my right foot this time, and I've got the kettlebell on my left hand so it can drop into the gap, and then from here it would be the same thing. So dropping into that gap, driving off that leg. Okay, give it a quick little go, see how it feels. Obviously, to make it harder you can add some weight. To make it easier, just go with body weight. I'd rather you try and get that depth with the quality rather than trying to add some weight and not quite getting there. Alright, so give that a quick little go. So how it would work, 10 on one side, 10 on the other side. Okay, if you know which leg is stronger, then I would start on your weakest leg and then move on to your stronger leg, just because there's no rest in between those two. So ideally you want your stronger leg working last. Cool? So moving on, our last movement, that strict press. Okay, so again I'm going to use this kettlebell. So if I show you, it looks something, hopefully you can see if I stand back, something a little bit like this. So that would be 1, that would be 2. Okay, if I show you from the side, I'll switch arms. 1, 2. Okay, so in terms of positioning, my feet directly underneath my shoulders. Don't need them here, don't need them here. So I want to set myself up for the best support travelling up my body. Okay. In terms of kettlebell, so depending on what you've got, as I said, I've only got a kettlebell. I'm trying to hold it in this position, so my hand is against like my collarbone or the top of my chest. Where I don't want it to be is on my shoulder. So notice it will try and pull that shoulder. Okay, so we want to try and keep that hand in front of us. If you've got a dumbbell, you can just sit the back of the dumbbell on your shoulder. Okay, and notice the position of the hand. It's very similar to the kettlebell. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm really squeezing my legs and I'm really squeezing my midline. Okay, as I push that kettlebell up, notice that my bicep is close to my ear and I've got a locked out arm. Okay, so from the side it looks something like that. What I'm not doing is this. At the same time, what I'm not doing is that. The other thing that I'd like you to think about is the rib cage. Okay, so as soon as we lose control of that midline, that rib cage starts to stick out and we sink into our lower back here. So think of pulling the rib cage down and then we'll feel that midline nice and tight and that will support all of our body. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Not the most complex of movements, but how we make it harder, we go a little bit heavier. Okay, same thing as your split squat. You want to work your weaker side first, so then your stronger side is working for the last part of that working set. Alright, so just a reminder how it's going to work. 5 rounds, we go every 4 minutes. So let's say it takes you 2.5 minutes, you then get a little bit of rest, and then we rinse and repeat. Alright, get yourself some water if you want some, and then we'll get cracking. Oh, actually, you can pause this, so I may as well just get started. Okay, so we start off with that strict press. Okay, let's get ready. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1, off we go. So 10 and 10, really squeeze the legs. Once you've done 10 on one side, switch to 10 on the other side. So I'm just picking a point in front of me and I'm looking at that the whole time. Once you've done your 10 and 10 of your strict press, you're then into your split squat. So same thing, drop the hips into the gap, drive off that leg. Once you've done your 10, simply switch your feet. And then we're into our dead bugs. So just coming up to the 2-minute marker. So 20 of these. So I've just finished my first round, so 2 minutes 45. You might still be going, you might be resting. In terms of those dead bugs, just remember that you want to try and extend those arms and legs, keeping that back pinned to the floor as much as you can. So if it gets hard, and just reduce the length to try and maintain that good position. Alright, so we've got 45 seconds and then we go into our second round. I don't know if you can tell, but absolutely chucking it down here. Okay, 15 seconds. Let's think about getting ourselves ready. So we come back into that shoulder press, so 10 and 10. In 3, 2, 1, and off we go. So really squeeze the legs. And then once you've done that, we're into that split squat. So try and start on the same side, if you can remember. And then from there, got those dead bugs. Try not to just rush through these. Good stuff, guys. So again, that took me about the same time, so 2 minutes 45. Have a little rest if you need to, and then we're going to go at the 8-minute marker, which is in 60 seconds. And we're going to round 3. Once we've ticked off round 3, we're over halfway, and then we've got 2 more rounds to get through. So just think about, throughout all those movements, just getting yourself into the right position, making sure you're set up properly before you start. And again, there's plenty of time, so try not to just rush through it. Okay, you've got 10 seconds and we go again. Let's get ready in 3, 2, 1, and off we go. Once you've done that, straight into that split squat. And then we switch to the other side. And to finish off, we've got our dead bugs. So try not to let that back pull away. Good stuff, guys. Oh. So that's 3 rounds done. We've got 2 more to get through. Getting quite warm. So have some water if you've finished. Okay, we've got 60 seconds and we do it all again. Get a bit of fresh air in. So I definitely find my right side much harder for my shoulder press. I'm left-handed, so maybe that's why. Okay, 10 seconds. Same again. Really squeeze the legs, squeeze the midline. 3, 2, 1, and off we go. And we're into that split squat. Remember, think about dropping your hips into the gap. And dead bugs, finish off. So notice I've got one speed. I'm not trying to rush through them. Oh. That's round 4 finished, if you finished it. If you have finished, we've just got one more round. Even if you haven't finished, we've still only got one more round. So let's try and make this last round a really good one. Okay, we have 45 seconds. So really think about squeezing that tummy, using the shoulder as much as you can to do the pushing, and then with that split squat, just hips straight into that gap below. Okay, you've got 15 seconds. Okay, let's think about getting ready. In 3, 2, 1, and we're into our last round, guys. And then let's see if we can go straight into that last set of split squats. Little wobble. And then we've got our last set of dead bugs. Good guys, so I've finished, but you've still got time if you're still working. You've got just over a minute left. So you have 45 seconds. I'll give you all the time to finish if you're still going. So a few more seconds. Good, and that is time. Rest there. Well done. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Pause me now if you need a little water break. If you're happy to, then let's just stretch our front a little bit. So we're going to lie on our front, take our arms nice and wide, keeping the hips on the ground. Just come into a nice little stretch there. If you feel it a little bit pinchy in the lower back, then you can just take your hands a little bit wider. Really good work on that. So how we make it harder, really simple things. So can we maybe reduce our rest just ever so slightly? Can we go ever so slightly heavier? Or could we maybe add in another set? So 3 variables that we can play around with to make what is essentially a really simple workout harder. So I used just a 12 kilo kettlebell, but let's for example say I used a 16 kilo. Would it have been harder? Yeah, absolutely. Cool, so from there guys, gently come out of that. So we're going to come to hands and knees. We're going to take one arm, we're just going to thread it underneath, so palm facing up, drop that shoulder to the floor, get a nice stretch in the front of the shoulder. And then we'll switch sides. And relax there. Well done guys, hopefully you enjoyed that, and see you all soon. See you later.